The people of Ondo State will, on October the 10th, go to the polls to elect a governor. It is a crowded field of 17 candidates, but among the lot, only 3 are expected by watchers of the political scene to make any meaningful impression, namely the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the Zenith Labour Party, ZLP. As we switch our attention away from what has been called a hugely successful governorship contest in Edo State some 10 days ago, we're this morning now being joined for a discussion from Akure, the capital of Ondo State, by Zadok Akintoye, spokesman, Eyitayo Jegede campaign organization. Eyitayo Jegede, senior advocate of Nigeria, being the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Welcome to the program, Zadok Akintoye. Thank you for joining us on the morning show. Good morning.
It is a pleasure to be with you this morning from the glorious city of Akure.
I like that. I like your patriotism. Well, I mean, what is the situation with your candidate now? He was on this program not too long ago to explain his vision and his ambition, his plans for the people of Ondo State. And I'm aware that he's gone around the local governments to campaign. You are a spokesperson. What has the reception been like? Are you confident at this moment that your party, the PDP, will be able to emerge victorious on October 10?
Without sounding immodest, let me tell you that by this time, hopefully on the 11th, after the elections on the 10th of October, we will be celebrating a PDP victory. Our campaign has been focused on meeting the people, going to the people in their locality to talk to them, to empathize with them, to speak with them about the fact that this government has failed. Our campaign has also been very real. We do not mobilize people, as you will see in other camps. We do not mobilize people to our campaigns. We go to communities, we go to the wards. And as Yorubas, we've also followed the culture of ensuring that in any locality we get to, we first and foremost visit the traditional rulers, pay our respects to them before we engage the citizens in their community. I am well assured that come October 10, the good people of Ondo State, the great people of this great, brilliant, very highly intellectual state, will be coming together to change leadership. What we have also done is to focus on the principles of democracy, that the focus, the tripod upon which a democracy thrives is in the people. And so we have taken our campaign to the people themselves, empowering them to see that their votes will count in this election.
Well, thank you for that. Let's talk about zoning, not as an academic exercise, but as it could possibly impact the chances of Eyitayo Jegede and the PDP. There are some people in Ondo State who are quite adamant that it is not the turn of Ondo Central Senatorial District, but that the next governor of Ondo State must be from Ondo South. Even somebody like Chief Tayo Alasho-Adura, who's the Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, who himself is from Ondo Central, agrees with this view. What do you think of zoning and rotation vis-a-vis meritocracy and your principal's chances?
Thank you. The campaigners for zoning have a valid reason to campaign, but however, that's not the basis upon which leaders are chosen in a democracy. Let me tell you very clearly that Ondo State has probably one of the highest numbers of very intelligent, very educated, very exposed people in the Nigerian system. And so for us to limit the choice of who's going to lead that community or this great community to zoning will be an insult to the people of Ondo State. We are not insulting also the fact that the emotions of those and the sentiments of those who are campaigning for zoning, we are not insulting that. We are only saying that in the 21st century, and going by the fact that we are a very, very well-educated state, and that the qualities for which we are choosing a governor is not limited, is not even defined by locality of the individual, is defined by the capacity of that individual, by his or her antecedents, if we have a female contesting, by what the person is bringing on the table. So zoning, while being valid for those who are proposing it, is not a valid argument in a democracy. We are not insulting them. We are only saying that let us look for leadership based on their capacities. Look at the three main contenders. Rotimi Akeredolu, SAN, who has been tested, who has also been proven very clearly not to have been of great and immense benefit to Ondo State on one side. The other person, Barrister Agbola Ajayi, with questionable, currently being litigated in a competent court for his qualification, his academic qualification, is there. And then you have Eyitayo Jegede, SAN, somebody whom, irrespective of the campaigns, irrespective of the fact that people are campaigning for zoning, somebody who has proven himself a fantastic administrator, an Omoluabi, somebody who has been successful legally at the highest level, somebody who has also not brought any shame to Ondo State, is also been there. So if we have to look at it from the point of view of common sense, we'll not be campaigning on zoning. If it is about zoning, would we say that Agbola Ajayi would be the best person from the Southern Senatorial District to run the affairs of Ondo State for the next 4 years? We have constantly said to our people that we must move away from such arguments and look at the fact that the next 4 years will not be recoverable if we hand it over to somebody who is not competent to lead it. Let me be very, very clear. At my age now, I have the next 4 years to consider. So in 4 years' time, I'll be 4 years older. And so who is going to lead the next 4 years is more important to me than the issue of zoning. And so I think that while they may be valid for those who are proposing it, maybe for sentimental reasons, for emotional reasons, for reasons of dividing us, it's not supposed to be one thing that the citizens will be considering at this time.
But you might call it sentimental reasons. I've got two questions for you. But a lot of people argue with you that even in Edo State, it was a sentimental reason put forward. You know, that's what they told the people of Edo Central, that, you know, allow Edo South to go now, so that it will be your time afterwards. So zoning is key. Yeah. And Governor Akeredolu was on this show, and he told me that he should wait for his time. He said Eyitayo Jegede is a good man, but he needs to wait for his time based on the zoning arrangement. Two things. You've said all the glowing things about Eyitayo Jegede, but he was accused of violence. I want you to tell me your own side of the story. What happened during the campaigns that led to violence and that big fracas?
Okay, let me quickly correct something. Mr. Eyitayo Jegede cannot be accused of having done anything violently. And I think probably you're speaking with respect to what happened during the campaigns to Akoko Southwest local government, specifically in Oba Akoko. And I'll quickly love to give you an explanation of what happened. The PDP was scheduled to be in that local government at that time. And when we got there, the first thing, as is customary with our campaign, was to visit the Palace of the King in that community. Fortunately for us, virtually everybody in our entourage was at the Palace of the King. Otherwise, we'll be talking about something else at this time. The governor, while also using the same road to attend his rally in Akoko Northeast local government, passed that same place in two convoys. His advance team had passed our people in Oba while they were there. And it is on record that his advance team did say that they engaged our people in compliments and then moved on. I am sure that advance team must have also advised the governor of the presence of the PDP campaign train in Oba Akoko. Unfortunately, when the governor came, against the rules of campaign, he also did try to engage the people in that community, and he was booed by the people in that community. And the response was what you saw, the shooting into the vehicles of the PDP, the destruction of property, the looting of the vehicles by thugs in the entourage of the governor. And I have posited severally to them that if indeed the governor had two teams, an advance team that had advised him, it would have been conventional for him. It would have been responsible on his part to have ensured that he did not campaign in that local government, in that particular location at that time. He has said that he wasn't aware of what transpired after his vehicle passed. And I have said also that that's an indictment on the security team, because I am aware that the last vehicle in the governor's entourage must be a security vehicle. And so he could not have said that he wasn't aware of what happened. I would have expected as a governor that immediately that fracas occurred in Oba Akoko, he would have turned back to engage his people if he was responsible first as the chief security officer of the state. So the Eyitayo Jegede campaign has always, and I am hoping that somebody will come to give a contrary opinion on this. We have always ensured as PDP to advise our people to avoid places where there will be conflict. Don't forget, when we set a date for our campaign to flag off, which was the 5th of September, we had already notified INEC, we had notified the security agencies, and the incumbent government was also aware. They decided to choose the same day and a location that was just very close. And what the PDP did immediately was to cancel all plans for that day to avoid a situation where we have members of two political parties in an approximate location where violence could occur. We have also advised the APC government to ensure at all times that they avoid conflict. What the governor did in Obakoko that day instigated this conflict. He should, as the chief security officer of the state, have avoided any campaign. He should have ensured that he didn't even engage the people there, even if he had to use the same road. So to accuse the Eyitayo Jegede campaign organization or our principal, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede SEN, of violence would be totally unfair. Look at our public communications. Look at everything we have said on radio. Look at our communications on TV. We have constantly appealed that the people of Ondo State, the life of the people of Ondo State matters above any political aspiration. Don't also forget, in the last election, after losing, assumably, to the APC, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede refused to litigate. So that's a gentleman. He refused to go to court against that victory because he said at that time, and I quote him, that the unity of Ondo State and the peace and progress of our people is paramount to anybody who is seeking aspiration to govern the state. And so that's what he did. And so to accuse him would be totally unfair and quite irresponsible on the part of the APC government.
Well, I mean, I know as spokesperson for Eyitayo Jegede SEN, your normal instinct will be to defend them and say things that will present him in a good light.
Not necessarily, not necessarily.
Okay, but you will know, of course, that the opposition, particularly the APC, has also complained that what happened in Obakoko was an attempt to assassinate the governor. And the governor himself has already pointed out that the PDP is planning to unleash violence on election day or even after. And then, of course, there was also a report about some PDP supporters who were apprehended. I think the place is it Ifon in Ose local government, who were apprehended
Ifon, yes,
in Ose local government area.
Yeah.
And they were caught with arms and ammunition. And as we speak, the last story I read about that was that they had been detained by the police. These are PDP supporters, Andy. So yes. I would like you to speak to that because it doesn't look like it's a one-sided story. Even the governor has had to tell Governor Wike that Ondo is not Rivers and that, people should not come from Rivers to come and get involved. But we'll take a short break. When we return, you can respond to all of these issues. Stay with us. When we return, you have the chance to respond. We'll be right back. It's still the morning show here on Arise News. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Zadok Akintoye, spokesman, Eyitayo Jegede campaign organization. Eyitayo Jegede, senior advocate of Nigeria, is the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party in Ondo State. And here we have his spokesperson. Well, Zadok, before we went on break, I was trying to balance that story about violence to say that the APC, from the governor to his spokespersons, have also accused the PDP of unleashing violence and planning more violence. And they've even cited the example of the intervention in the process in Ondo State of the governor of Rivers State. I also know that the governor of Oyo State's name has also been mentioned in connection with that October 10 election. Do you want to respond to some of that so that it doesn't look like it's a one-sided story?
You see, when we say the truth in a conversation, we take responsibility. And I want to tell you and the good people of this great nation that if we as a party have done something wrong, we will take responsibility for that because it is expected of leaders to do that. What happened in Oba Akoko and the conversation from the governor of Ondo State are totally divergent and not true. I remember that I've asked them a question, that if the governor had two convoys, his advance team and then his team, and it is on record that his advance team did say that when they met the PDP in Oba Akoko, they exchanged compliments and passed on peacefully. So if there was an orchestrated plan to attack the governor, obviously his advance team would probably have been attacked on the assumption that that was the governor. Number two is that when the governor got to that place, obviously we were already there campaigning. And you won't expect us as a political party in opposition to campaign about the things that the governor has not done. We had told the people, obviously, do they have water in their community? No. Do they have a functioning health center? No. The schools in that community are decrepit. The roads are not even existing. And obviously, we would have done those campaigns there. You won't expect that when he gets there, if he even wants to contradict whatever we have said, it shouldn't be on that day because he would have his time. And for him to have come there to seek to campaign at the same time was a violation of the campaign rules. Number two is that for him to have done that, he should know that the sentiments of the people, having been heightened by the PDP, which was already in that location, will be against him. So to say that the PDP instigated that violence is irresponsible on the part of this government. It's a leadership rascality where you don't take the people as being important for you to take responsibility for your mistakes. When the governor passed, the entourage of the governor had on it several vehicles branded in the APC color. It's on video, it's on record that you had people who were not authorized to carry submachine guns and assault rifles, having them in the governor's convoy. The governor should first take responsibility for that. As the chief security officer of the state, would it not be a crime to have in your entourage people that had unauthorized firearms and who were willing to unleash it against the people that you were supposed to protect? That governor should take responsibility for that. With reference to the people that were arrested in the Ifon community, we have had to do our investigations. And one of the things we found out was that the gentlemen were members of the OPC. These gentlemen had been approached to support the APC, which they rejected. And so we feel that there is an orchestrated plan by the APC to deliberately rope them into the PDP by saying that because they were in the PDP branded vehicles, they obviously were on hand to do the work of the PDP. Number two is that if you look at the firearms that were caught, that were displayed by the police, none of it is an assault rifle. All of these firearms in their hand with these men are Dane guns that ordinary farmers, ordinary hunters will have. So I keep asking, so where is the evidence that these people were are connected to us?
Are you saying that Dane guns are not dangerous?
Obviously, they are dangerous. And what I'm saying once again is that if you compare them, OPC is an organization known to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, it will be the responsibility of the federal police to come with evidence to say that these men are not members of the OPC. I have it on information that upon interrogation, one of them did ask the DPO of that community that at the time when, don't you know that we are OPC members? That at the time when Fulani kidnappers had picked some people in that community, were we not part of those who went to rescue them? So for you to say that we were there in Ifon on behalf of the PDP will be very, very false. We have also said that the police should investigate the entourage of the governor of Ondo State and the evidence that is there showing individuals that are, obviously they must be individuals within the state carrying assault rifles in the entourage of a governor of a state who is also the chief security officer of the state. So it is the responsibility of the police to investigate impartially and then to come up with a position to tell us that this is what they have found out. We hope that they will do that. But rather than jumping to the conclusion that these are members of the PDP would be totally unfair. Let me also do hard that in any society where there's fairness, there's justice, where the police is impartial and very effective, people will not resort to personal defense of themselves. In most of our houses, we have fences because we cannot live in a safe society. And if the chief security officer of a state is obviously colluding, supporting, promoting criminal elements in his own and covering them with his own immunity by allowing them to join his convoy. That is where we should situate the injustice and the violence that we are seeing in Ondo State.
That's quite an allegation. But anyway, I'm sure you've had plenty of time to review the entire process that resulted in the victory of Governor Obaseki at the polls in Edo State. How has that changed your strategy? And what would you like to say regarding the arduous task of attempting to unseat an incumbent? As you have said, he's the chief security officer, the role that the security agencies will play, the role that INEC will play. What do you have to say about those factors?
If INEC is impartial, I can tell you that if the election holds tomorrow, Rotimi Akeredolu SAN will not have 25% votes in this state. The simple reason is that there's a disconnect. There's a cultural disconnect, first and foremost, by this incumbent governor. We are Yoruba people largely in this state. And part of the culture of the Yorubas is deep respect for our traditional institutions. Part of the culture of the Yorubas is deep respect, even for strangers. This governor has not displayed that. He had assumed that 4 years was such a long period of time. And he had ruled the state, ditto, just like a colonial master, with deep disrespect for our traditional institution. He is the first governor on record to have lambasted a traditional institution, a traditional ruler of an entire huge community, and not only lambasting or even threatening that they were going to destroy that community if such an incident occurred again. He took sides. He didn't provide leadership. Do you think that as Yorubas we will sit down and appreciate that? We were taught growing up to even respect strangers, not to talk of traditional institutions that are there in a state like this. The governor has this attitude of speaking to people and not listening. And he has not listened to the people of Ondo State, who have had to keep groaning in silence over a period of time. This is the first state where you need to use an ATM to buy water, public water. There is no public tap running anywhere in Ondo State, but the few places where you have public water running, this governor, for the first time, placed ATM machines on those taps for the people of Ondo State. If you cannot provide the services, you should not limit the poor from having access to them. We have health institutions that are decrepit at the moment. The governor keeps saying that I know what I want to do. I don't need the advice of people. So people don't complain. Compare that to the PDP, outgone PDP government, where each community was given an opportunity. Yes, please, Tundum.
I have to cut in at this point. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
please hold your
Go
thoughts
ahead.
while we'll take a short break, and we'll be back for the rest of your response. Please stay with us.
Right, welcome back to the morning show right here on the Rising channel. I've got Zadok Akintoye, spokesperson for the Eyitayo Jegede campaign organization. Eyitayo Jegede is the senior advocate of Nigeria, being the governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party. I'm sure you want to answer Tundu's questions before I come straight to you with more questions. Hello, Zadok?
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I'm with you. Yeah. Look, it is important for leaders to be responsible to the people that they are leading. And that's why we are very sure that the people of Ondo State, having observed and having taken very careful records of the administration of Rotimi Akeredolu, will remove him from government. We are trusting that the people of Ondo State will realize that 4 years is such a period of time that we can't waste with a government that disrespects our people this badly. This government has not performed. For the records, I want to put it on record here that we have asked the Ondo State government to explain how a 100-meter bridge with less than 2 kilometers of adjoining roads will cost 5.6 billion. And they have not explained it to us. We have asked them how such a bridge could cost us 5,600 million naira. And they have not bothered to explain. And whatever the feedback we keep getting from them is that we don't have a right to ask the governor to explain how public money, public funds belonging to the people of Ondo State is spent. At the moment, for the Southern Senatorial District that has also PADEC as an organization to administer the resources of that region, It is on record that this government has not commissioned one project within the last 4 years. It has been alleged severally that cronies of this government are in that organization, milking that organization for the benefit of the first family. And while the governor may disagree with our position, what is expected in a democracy where the voice of the people counts is that it is his responsibility to explain to us how public funds are spent. You cannot assume the position of an omnipotent to say that because I am the governor. We are not in a colonial era.
Zadok, let me come in here. It's sounding quite very one-sided. But
yes,
I want to talk specifically about what you have promised, what your principal has promised. He said he would end herders farmers crisis. How will he do it? He said he will make health care.
I didn't
he said he
you.
will end herders farmers crisis.
I didn't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Zadok?
Crisis.
Herders farmers crisis.
I can. Yes, I can.
Tell me specifically how he will end it. He said he will reduce tuition fees in school. How will he pay for the backlog of reducing tuition fees in school? He said he will fix health care, make it free, you know, for you to be able to go into the hospital and get maternal health care. How will he pay for it, and what is the cost of providing this service? Because checks and balances, for every service you promise, there's a cost attached to it. If you check a budget, there's a line item attached to it.
Yes.
How will he raise the money? How will he pay for this? But first, answer me, how will he stop the herders farmers crisis? How?
Okay. I would like to start from the last question on healthcare and then take it to the farmer herder crisis. Number one is that he has promised free maternal health care, maternal and child health care. He has not promised free health care across board. He has said that our women and our children, who constitute a larger percentage of our society, must be given access to very free, affordable and high quality healthcare, and that's what he said.
What do you mean by free affordable? What do you mean by free affordable?
It's about prioritizing.
Hello, sir. Hello, Zadok. Yeah. What do you mean by free affordable?
In terms of being able to access it.
But if it's free, why should it be affordable?
Not in terms of cash payments.
If it's free, why should it be affordable?
That's what I'm explaining to you. Affordable in terms of. Yes, please, let me explain that. Affordable not in terms of cash payments. Affordable in terms of access. You must be able to access it. You must be able to get there. That is why we are going to resuscitate the general hospital systems in the 18 local government. They must be functional. They must be first places of reference for people in that community. It must be such that people don't need to transport themselves from long distances to access specialized healthcare in the state capital. Because it's not about the state capital alone. It's about our entire Ondo State. And what he has promised is that he's going to provide free health care for women and children. Free maternal and child health care. That's on that. Now, about financing it. Number one is that government must be able to prioritize this project. We are not a road construction government alone. We may be into more road maintenance. We may be into more important road projects, but we are not a road construction government. We are first about the people. And so we must prioritize our funding in such a way, our expenditure in such a way that there is funds to take care of the most vulnerable in society. And that's what he has promised. With respect to Akungba University, if you look at the student population, I want to use Rufus Giwa Polytechnic as an example, from 8,000 to 2,500. 8,000 prior to the increase in fees to 2,500. It's a simple case of economics. Expand infrastructure, allow greater access by our citizens, and then cost will go down. Once you make it affordable, you give more citizens access to that. You will have more enrollment. More enrollment means that the institutions are going to earn more, and then government can fund the balance. Government can ensure that subvention to these institutions is provided. Ask the Akeredolu government. They keep decreasing the funds made available to these institutions and then forcing the institutions to demand more from the citizens. You increase taxes of citizens, you increase levies payable by citizens, you also increase access to education, heightening the barrier to entry for people. Where do they want to access the funds to pay? So we must find a way of allowing more students enrollment, greater student enrollment. I am aware of 3 young ladies that left the Rufus Giwa Polytechnic for Ede Poly in Osun State, in our sister Osun State. That means they are taking funds that are available here to look for education where it is more affordable. We must bring them back. We must bring our people back from Kogi, where they are seeking education now because it's affordable. We must allow our institutions, our universities to be expanded. We must keep expanding them. We are not
You've not answered me the question, how would you pay for rate? How would you pay for rate? You've not answered that question.
That's what I've just said. That's what I've said. Those are two things I've answered.
Okay.
I've answered two things. I said we must increase student population, reduce fees, increase population, and then government will fund whatever is the shortfall through direct allocation to these universities. They are state institutions. If you allow more students, look, 2,000 students, 2,500 students in Rufus Giwa Polytechnic, for instance, as against the 8,000 that were there before. Obviously, you find that there's a shortfall in earnings by those institutions. And so it's just simple economics. Allow more students to have access to it at an affordable rate. You'll be able to meet up. Whatever is left not catered for, particularly in terms of salaries and emoluments to staff, government can then fund that directly from government allocation. Number 3 question you asked about Fulani herdsmen, I want to quickly answer that. It is a Nigerian society and it's a Nigerian problem. And so what we must do is that while we accommodate the fact that we're all Nigerians, people must also understand that there are limits to their movements. For instance, you cannot, it's against the law. We don't need to create new laws. We only need to enforce them. It's against the law for you to deliberately destroy the property of another individual or another citizen. You can't direct your cows into people's farmlands. There are places specifically for farming. You cannot herd cows into farmland because the cows are not at fault. It's the individuals managing them that are at fault. Cows cannot differentiate between a farm and a natural field. And so they will continue destroying. Our policy will be to ensure that farmers do not, herdsmen do not access farms. There are traditional grazing routes that are there. They must be limited to that. People that are raising cattle cannot be allowed to bring it into communities. There must be at least a buffer zone between known communities and cattle herders. We are also going to, and I want to say this, it is important that we must realize that cattle herding is not a culture, it's a business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. In Akure, for instance, 100 cattle are killed on a daily basis, translating approximately to about 15 million. And when you transpose that over a 30-day period, you are talking about 450 million. The resources for feeding this cattle is taken from the land here. And so we must find a way to ensure that those who are in the business of cattle herding and those who are in the business of farming understand. You can even complement each other. You can complement each other in places where farmers need fertilizers. You graze there for a period of time and you move out so that the farmers can farm those places. We must create a symbiosis between the cattle herdsmen and the farmers, also within the law, knowing that you cannot, in Nigeria, raise or graze your cattle in people's properties. We must respect that. And those are some of the solutions we'll be bringing to it. Obviously, we'll be talking more with those that are directly involved, that is the Miyetti Allah organization, and our local farmers here. Once we are able to do that, and we would also ask that security agencies will do their part in ensuring that when there's a conflict, they move to site quickly and promptly to avert crisis between them.
Well, Zadok, you've been very critical of Governor Akeredolu, which is understandable. You even said he has no respect for traditional rulers. But I'll recall that when he tested positive for COVID-19, these same traditional rulers, before the APC primary, visited him and even endorsed him. That's just a way of balancing the story. But I'd like to ask you, how much of a factor is the Godfather factor in this Ondo gubernatorial election? Because so many names have been thrown up, names of persons that are not even in Ondo State. In the case of your candidate, for example, Governor Wike's name has been mentioned, Governor Seyi Makinde's name has been mentioned. On the APC side, there's been talk about the role of the national leader of the APC in Ondo State. In ZLP, there is also the role of former Governor Mimiko. How much of a factor is godfatherism And what should we expect? Quickly.
I would answer that directly by telling you that in the PDP scenario, you don't have a godfather system. The two governors you have mentioned, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers and Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, are members of the PDP. It will be expected that they will play leadership roles in ensuring that the party wins the election in Ondo State. It's not a godfather system. What you have in the APC is a godfather system, and that's not what you have in the PDP. What you have in the Zenith Labour Party is also a godfather system where, even as against the fact that somebody may not be well qualified, you find people that are speaking on his behalf, that are defending on his behalf, that are pampering and pampering him. And so, but in the PDP, you have a candidate that is independent, who also obviously needs support of party leaders across the entire country. And that's what they are doing. We are not a godfather system. You could talk about godfather when you're talking about Lagos, where somebody has ruled since 1999 and he has not moved away from there, and he determines who gets into power. That doesn't occur in the PDP. That does not exist even in the PDP in Ondo State. You cannot have one single individual choosing. But that said, we must also realize that we are in Nigeria. And there is no way that you won't find a social structure where there are leaders and there are followers. If we want to say that that's a godfather system, I mean, that will be left to the individual making that decision. But the truth of the matter is that in any society, even in our religious society, there are leaders, there are followers. But in PDP Ondo State, there is no godfather system. Nobody, if you have a godfather system, I won't even be here. I won't be here because I am not the son of anybody that is in the PDP. Neither am I related to anybody that is in the PDP in Ondo State. And you find Eyitayo Jegede has proven himself. If Eyitayo Jegede becomes the godfather of the party, I will be honored because that's a very brilliant person. So for the APC, I won't want to speak for them. They know what they want to do. They know who their godfathers are. We don't have the godfather.
Thank you very much, Zadok Akintoye, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show. We wish you and your candidate all the best as Ondo State counts down to October 10 for gubernatorial election.